The NCAA finally makes a ruling on Ivisic, and honestly, it does not make any sense, but it goes in the Illini's favor. So let's talk about it. Locked On Illini. Let's go.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to a Friday night live edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Simple reminder, if you'd like to support the channel, if you'd like to support the show, hit the download button on your favorite audio platform or right here on YouTube. Share it with your friends. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. As of 10 minutes ago, it showed that 58% of the people who watch this show are not subscribed. So it's coming up in your algorithm, but you aren't subscribed to the show. It's a simple and very easy way for you to kind of help this channel grow. Today, we're going to be talking about Tomislav Ivisic. The NCAA has finally made a ruling, and it looks like he will be suiting up for the Illini at the beginning of the season. We're also going to be making a formal Illinois versus Minnesota prediction. I've held off on it because, quite honestly, it doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm just going to go with my gut. And stay tuned for that in the second segment. Today's episode is going to be brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, as I said, today's episode is being recorded live, so please let me know in the comment section what you guys want to talk about in the third segment. I'm kind of leaving that open for you guys. I'd love to get some final score predictions for Illinois and Minnesota. Justin says hello. Hello, Justin. It's Friday, right? We enjoy ourselves on Friday. We kind of relax, get ready for the weekend. We got the early kickoff tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Against Minnesota. So it's a game I think is one of the more underrated games of the weekend. Of course, all the attentions are on the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions, but I think Minnesota, Illinois is going to be a very evenly matched team and a game that I think could be one of the best games of the weekend. But first, we're going to talk basketball because I know you guys like to talk basketball. So late, I guess it was even late. It was halfway through Thursday afternoon, the NCAA finally made a ruling for Tomislav Ivisic's eligibility. He's a player that we've gotten over the offseason, and some of you are familiar. His brother, Zvonimir Ivisic, had similar issues with the NCAA and wasn't allowed to play until January 22nd of last season. So he missed almost half the season while Kentucky and Kentucky's fans waited around for the NCAA to make a ruling. No such problem for the Illini. You kind of got a glimpse or a hint that something was imminent when he was allowed to play for the Illini against Ole Miss in the exhibition game. And sure enough, Thursday, it was ruled that Ivisic is cleared to play right at the start of the season with some weird tacked on stipulations, which just make me roll my eyes because it's the NCAA being the NCAA. What are those stipulations, you might ask? Okay, so Ivisic, for some odd reason, is going to be classified as a sophomore with 3 years of eligibility remaining. Now, I don't think this is a huge deal. Tomislav is 21 years old. He's already got NBA size at 7 foot, 260 pounds. So I would be surprised if Tomislav was planning on staying here 4 or 3 years. I do think if he has a good couple seasons, that because of his size and because of his shooting touch, which I'm kind of projecting, he might have a spot playing professionally. So that one, I guess it's not a big deal. But again, it's just one of those, why did the NCAA make that ruling? Like, how does a guy who's never attended a class at a university get ruled as a sophomore? I mean, has this been done before? I have no idea. Again, just makes no sense to me, but this is the NCAA, right? The NCAA just doesn't make sense. The other stipulation is he has to make a financial repayment by donating to a charity of his choice. Again, more nonsense from the NCAA. I think it was Jeff Goodman who tweeted out earlier that players are being paid now upwards of a couple $1 million a year, some of them, to play college basketball. And yet, for some reason, Tomislav is going to have to donate some income that he has to his favorite charity. The NCAA just doesn't make sense. And I could record an entire episode coming up with different examples that aren't consistent, that just flat out, make me question how long the NCAA is going to be around. But this is one of those where I think we all see it. The organization itself is the one digging its grave. What does this mean for the basketball team, though? Let me know what you guys think. I think Tomislav, I talked about this, was one of the more impressive players on Sunday. He showed a softer touch than I originally imagined him having. He's a guy who the coaching staff has told us is able to make the outside jumper from three-point land, and we know that's something that Brad Underwood's going to be focusing on this year's team. I think he just said on an interview that he fully expects Illinois to shoot 25 plus three-pointers every single game. So that's going to be a big facet of the offense. And it's nice that when you bring in a guy who's 7 foot, 260 pounds, he doesn't limit you on that. He can also launch those three-pointers. So it's not like you have to change your game plan all that much. Now, I also think it's important because I think this settles our starting lineup a little bit more. I like Morez Johnson. I've been talking about Morez Johnson on this show since the inception. I think he's a guy who down the road can be an all Big Ten player. But when it comes to young freshman bigs in the Big Ten, I just want to take it slow with them. They're foul prone. They tend to get overexcited, over-aggressive. The referees are keeping their eyes on them. And the Big Ten in itself is arguably the most physical league in the entire country. So if Tomislav wasn't playing, and you had Morez Johnson starting or a Kerry Booth starting, I think we would really run the risk of, Morez getting in foul trouble early in the first half. And ultimately, you don't want your starting center in foul trouble and playing 15 to 20 minutes in a game. So Tomislav coming in, he's 21 years old. He's played against men in Europe. There's no sense of intimidation on his part. I just talked about how Big Ten bigs are some of the most physical in the country. Well, Tomislav has already dealt with actual men over in Europe. So if anything, coming down to the college level, these guys are going to be a little bit smaller. Now, when you think of Tomislav, a lot of people want to talk about his defensive issues. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it isn't an issue. But I truly think that right now, Illinois' focus on offense, scoring. And with that, it becomes your best defense, essentially kind of wearing down your opponent. And Tomislav being in that lineup, I think is going to be a huge addition. Because not only that, we don't have anyone who can replace Tomislav. We have other centers, Morez Johnson and Kerry Booth, as I mentioned, but no one 7 foot, 260 pounds. No one with that kind of size and weight and physicality that, we could bring in his place were he not playing, if we were still waiting on the NCAA ruling. So this is one of those where it's nice because Illinois has 10 new players this season. And obviously, the season starts on Monday. I'll have a preview show for you Sunday evening where I'm going to be previewing the Eastern Illinois basketball game. I'm actually going to be doing a full blowout preview show, I believe, next Thursday. I'm going to have Joe Jackson from Feed the Post show on YouTube, which is my favorite one, genuinely. If you haven't watched that, check it out. We're going to go over the entire Big Ten. I'll be making my bowl predictions next week. It's just nice that a team that's brought in 10 new guys, a lot of these guys are going to get used to playing with each other. And if Tomislav wasn't playing and he came in a month later, then all of a sudden we'd have to kind of reset the clock on these guys getting acclimated with one another. So basically the clock starts for everyone on Monday night at 7 o'clock against Eastern Illinois. And, again, I'm glad it's against Eastern Illinois because it's a team that they had a quote-unquote breakout season last year, winning 14 games, but they're not exactly a team that we should be struggling with. I think the spread is 27 points, and quite honestly, I would be surprised if we won by anything less than 30. If we did, then that could be a cause for concern, but it's a game that we should win. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just grateful that we're going to have Tomislav right off the bat. It's huge for the basketball team, and I think that's a good step for the first part of the season. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime. Which is why they created Stan the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are the last to leave. We see you. So while we watched Illinois versus Minnesota last year, we all recall John Paddock coming in at the end of the game, throwing it to Isaiah Williams for that final touchdown, for that big victory. This is what we need our fan fuel for. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stan the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. All right, so football Saturday, as I mentioned, in Memorial Stadium, the Fighting Illini are going up against Minnesota Golden Gophers. And I'm so perplexed by this. Minnesota, as I mentioned, opened up as 3-point favorites. Illinois opened up as 3-point favorites, and there's been a 6-point swing. And now all of a sudden, Minnesota is the team that's favored in Champaign. And if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've had no problems predicting against the Illini on this show. I deal with some comments every now and then saying, hey, this is an Illini show and you don't believe in the team. That's obviously not it. I just try to be as objective as possible. But if I hold true to that and try to continue to be as objective as possible, then I need to be honest. This line makes no sense to me. If you're telling me Illinois is a 3-point dog at home, now I know the NFL is a little bit different, but being at home essentially gives you 3 points, right? You're telling me Minnesota is almost a touchdown favorite on a neutral field against Illinois? The only way this makes sense is if the people, Vegas has found out that, Pat Bryant isn't playing, or some of those guys in the secondary are not going to be playing. Then I think the game is, at best, a toss-up, a 50-50 shot either way. But when it comes to season resume, I understand that Minnesota is on a roll right now, and I understand they're playing confidently, but I just think people have a bad taste in their mouths over Illinois' not exactly inspiring performance against Oregon last week. But how good is Minnesota playing right now? And this is one of those things where I'm kind of shaking my head at. Week 5, so for the season they're 5-3, 3-2 in the Big Ten Conference. Their opening game was against North Carolina, which they lost 17-19 to a not very good North Carolina football team. They had 2 follow-up wins against Rhode Island and Nevada. Again, not very impressive. Those aren't exactly great teams. Iowa, they had at home. Now, Iowa is a team that I would kind of put almost at the same tier, maybe slightly below where I perceive Illinois to be right now. And they had Iowa at home and lost that game 31-14. Follow that up with a game at Michigan, a team Illinois beat quite comfortably, if I might add, 21-7. They lost to Michigan 24-27. So at this point in the season, there were 2-3. And you started hearing whispers of Fleck getting bought out. And is it possible? Has the team tuned him out? And then things change, and they win their next 3 games. But who are these next 3 games? USC, they beat at home 24-17. How good of a team is USC? I think that's a question all of us have. They haven't exactly steamrolled the Big Ten like their fans were convinced that they were going to do all offseason long. So, I mean, I'll say it's a nice win, but I'm not going to say beating USC at home is a great win by any stretch. Then they beat UCLA at UCLA, 21-17. A 21-17 victory against UCLA, who is a bottom 3 team in the conference. Like, how impressive of a victory is that? Now, any victory in the Big Ten is impressive. Don't get me wrong. But you nearly squeaked by. I mean, we hear about the Purdue game, right? You guys barely beat Purdue. Well, in this case, Minnesota won 21-17 over a not very good UCLA team either. That they had a bye week 8, and then last week, of course, we all saw they beat Maryland 48-23. Now, the score is impressive. Don't get me wrong, 48-23 is a very impressive college football win, but the wheels are falling off that Terrapin bandwagon. Some of these Maryland fans are the most miserable fan base that I've seen on all of these social medias as of late. Maryland got beat by not a very good Northwestern team. And when I say not very good, I mean really, really bad Northwestern team. And so, again, Minnesota had that game at home. So, again, like, what is this really? Is this 3-game win streak of theirs really all that impressive? I'm not buying it. I still think Illinois, at this point, you're talking about their only 2 losses being away at Penn State and at Oregon, 2 of the 3 best teams in the country. That's a resume that I respect a whole heck of a lot more than Minnesota. And for Minnesota to come in to Champaign on Saturday for the 11 o'clock kickoff and be 3-point favorites, make it make sense. None of it makes sense. Max Rosemer is a fantastic quarterback. And to me, it's going to probably ultimately come down to a quarterback showdown between Luke Altmaier and Max Rosemer. I think they're both kind of at the same level, the same tier. And, if Max is able to make plays, especially far secondary is as depleted as as it potentially could be, well, then Minnesota might be able to, score a couple points. But just like Aaron Henry had that bounce back game against Michigan after a very poor performance in that second half against Purdue, I fully expect Aaron Henry to have another bounce back game this week against Minnesota after, quite honestly, a pretty poor showing against Oregon. Ultimately, I see Illinois winning. If Pat Bryant plays, if most of the guys in the secondary who are injured, if they play, I think Illinois wins comfortably. And by comfortably, I'm saying I think they win by a touchdown at the very least. If they don't play, then I can see this being a coin flip game. But what's happened with me this year is if the game is close, at the end of the game, I trust Luke Altmaier. He doesn't get phased at all. I think he's a guy who has grown as a quarterback. He's had 3 interceptions this year, but those 3 interceptions are against some of the best defenses in the entire country when it comes to Penn State and Oregon last week. I really think that Luke can win this game for us offensively, and Aaron Henry has that bounce back game for us, as I mentioned earlier, on the defensive end. Already, a lot of people are calling for his job again. Illinois fans will always stay Illinois fans. We're a very passionate bunch, and I can't say we're necessarily always the most calm. And, they're aggressive, and it's a team that's currently 6-2, and yet you're trying to fire your defensive coordinator. I think that's silly. And I think some of those calls for his job are going to quiet down at the conclusion of Saturday's game. So I'm going to go under the assumption that Pat Bryant and those guys in the secondary play. And if that's the case, I see a 31-17 victory for the Illini. Again, comfortably, I think we win by over a touchdown if we have a full team. If it's not a full team, then all of a sudden, I can see it being a coin flip game. I won't make 2 separate score predictions. That's kind of cheating. But just something to keep an eye on. You let me know. Does that line make sense to you? I just went through Minnesota's schedule this season. Which one of those wins was the most impressive to you? USC, I guess. But go take a look at USC's record right now. Not exactly one of the – I wouldn't even call them one of the top half teams in the Big Ten. They're a team that if they weren't USC, I don't know if that win would be all that respectable. I think that's just a brand name victory more than anything else. But let me know what you guys think. Give me your score predictions, and then we'll see who's correct. And obviously Saturday, post-game, this is the show to be on. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and in particular, that notification bell that's going to be right up there, because as soon as the game is over, as I have every single game, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be live. I'll be taking your chats. We'll talk back and forth. Either we're going to be celebrating together or we're going to be having a therapy session together. So definitely make sure you hit that notification bell, and we'll be talking the conclusion of Illinois and Minnesota tomorrow. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. As I mentioned, basketball season starts on Monday. I was thinking about having my preview tonight, but I figured there's a lot of Illinois content going on. We're in the meat of the season now, which is quite frankly a relief. This channel started during the off season, and sure enough, there were some days where it was hard to come up with content every single day. Which, by the way, if you're new here, that's what I do. Some of the everydayers in the chat, leave a comment. You guys know. I'm producing Illinois content every single day here on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. Just do a search for Locked On Illini. I'm here for you guys because you continue to help this channel grow. But having said that, I figure I can spread out a little bit of the news stories a little bit more. I think Sunday evening we're going to be here. We're going to be previewing the Eastern Illinois game, things I'm going to be looking for, which players I'm going to be paying closer attention to. And as I do for the football games, I'll be making a prediction. As of this recording, Illinois' women's basketball team is actually playing their exhibition game against Lewis University. They had another 4-star commit to the Illini today, making, I believe, 4 in the top 100, 3 or 4 in the top 100. Again, Shauna Green, I have all the respect for in the world. I think anyone who watches the show knows how much I appreciate Brett Bielema and Brad Underwood. And I'm telling you, having said that, and with that in mind, I do think there's a chance that Shauna Green might be the best coach that this university has. And I'm truly grateful that we're able to have signed her on that extension that we did late last week. Jason chimes in and says, ILL. Nice to see you, Jason. I. Jason, let me know what you think. What's your final prediction for the score tomorrow on Saturday? But as I was talking about the women's basketball team, I'm going to be watching as many games as possible on that end as well. I don't know if I'll be doing post games just because I don't know if the interest is there to have all of you tuning in for a post game every single time. But I promise I will be covering the team. If you have a favorite writer, tag them on your favorite social media. Let them know, hey, you should jump on Locked On Illini with Sunny. The show. It's my show, but it's also your guys' show. So again, I want to produce content that you guys want to watch. But otherwise, I want you all to enjoy your Friday night. Sit back, relax. There's going to be a couple football games on. No Big Ten game this week, but regardless, Saturday is going to be a full schedule. Make sure you follow me at Illini Cast. Austin and I were going to be doing another full-on season preview of the basketball season and sometime next week. And if you followed us last year, we predicted a high scorer, high rebounder, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of Illinois content. That's what I'm here for. If you're a fan of the Chicago Bears, find me on Bears on Tap. I do shows every Tuesday and Sunday. And so either way, appreciate all of your guys' support. And I'm going to let you all enjoy your weekend. And I'll see you Saturday after the game. ILL. Love you guys.